Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. Sitting in for Pinky Webb, I'm Ria Tanwat Cotrillo. Today on the program, millions of Filipinos head to polling precincts to elect their new sets of Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan leaders. What is the significance of choosing new village and youth leaders? Political analyst Edmund Tayao joins us in the show. And later, we get an update on the volume of passengers passing through the country's main international airport this long holiday. Immigration spokesperson Dana Sandoval tells us more later in the program. It's election day here in the Philippines, with Filipinos finally getting to choose their new sets of Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan officials after several delays. Over 672,000 positions are up for grabs, with more than 42,000 for barangay captain and the same number for SK chairperson. More than 92 million voters are expected to participate in today's polls. President Bongbong Marcos was among those who cast his vote early in his hometown in Batac City, Ilocos Norte. The president arrived at the Mariano Marcos Memorial Elementary School just minutes after the polls opened at 7 in the morning. All eyes on the 10 villages that were administratively transferred from Makati to Taguig City for the barangay and SK elections. Our correspondent EJ Gomez is at the polling precinct in East Rembo Elementary School in Taguig. EJ, what is the situation there like this morning?
Ria, the Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections 2023 has just begun. Here at the East Rembo Elementary School in Taguig City, it's generally peaceful. It only takes a few minutes for voters to cast their votes. According to school officials, there are 42 precincts here for over 19,000 registered voters. But only about 20% of the total number of registered voters here have officially cast their votes in the first 2 hours. The Commission on Election has increased the allowance of teachers serving for this year's BSKE up to 10,000 pesos from the previous 5,000 pesos. COMELEC Chairman George Garcia said an additional 2,000 pesos will also be given to teachers from a school in Muntinlupa City and Naga City, which were chosen as areas for the pilot testing of early voting for the vulnerable sector, including PWDs, senior citizens, and pregnant women, which started at 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. Back to you.
Thanks a lot for that, EJ Gomez. They're reporting live from East Rembo Elementary School. Now, 5 years after the 2018 Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections, Filipinos are once again choosing new sets of village and youth officials. The outcome of the BSKE polls is expected to impact the future of the barangay, the country's basic political unit, in the next 2 years. Now let's go straight to the source of the story, political analyst Ed Tayao. Sir, good morning. Thank you so much for being here with us this morning.
Good morning, Ria. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is really going to vote this morning.
Right. Well, we've waited 5 years for these elections, of course, and after a series of postponements, these elections, the Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections, are finally happening. So maybe you could start us off by talking about if the Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections are still relevant and significant, and if so, how so?
You know, Ria, this has been discussed a number of times among policymakers and even advocates like me. For example, there's really a need to review our political structure, of course, review the RA 7160 or the Local Government Code. Of course, village governments like barangay, like the barangay, is still very much relevant, particularly in rural areas. No, but if you look at the highly urbanized centers, for example, I'm not really convinced whether they're still very much needed. No, why is that? Because you know, It's kind of unusual that, for example, in a barangay where you have, huge establishments, even malls, for that matter, and expect them to perform functions, no, still, which are quite pretty basic. In the rural areas, however, you can see significantly the difference, no? In the rural areas where, especially in our coastal provinces, where you have coastal barangays and coastal municipalities, the distance, no, between the local communities and their municipalities really is significant in that you really need the barangays to deliver the basic services to them. So perhaps we can review in some way that we can calibrate, no, the work of the barangay. Not to mention, of course, perhaps we can review the size of the barangays as well. There are barangays which are as huge as the small municipalities, no, all over the country. But there are barangays which are as small as a single, small block. No, again, particularly in highly urbanized centers. And so,
Right.
really, we have to make sense further, no, of how we can uh, reconfigure
Right.
uh, governance setup.
Having said that, Professor, what might the alternative be in the more highly urbanized areas where you say the barangay and SK may not be so relevant anymore?
Uh, Hindi ko pala nabanggit yung sa SK Ria, no. Alam mo yung SK, may mga naging initiatives na before to actually abolish them, or again also reconfigure. Why is that? Because many of those running for SK elections actually are not able to perform their duties, particularly if they are in school. Karamihan naman ng mga tumatakbo lalo na sa SK, most likely sila talaga yung qualified, no, mga nag-aaral talaga. Ang problema, kung if they are studying, no, particularly in Manila, for example, but their residence is in the provinces, they're not able to really perform their work as Sangguniang Kabataan. Not to mention, of course, that when you speak of representation or representation from the youth, you can approach that differently, no? Not only through the barangays, but also through the Sangguniang Bayan, where perhaps you can already identify local youth groups, no, that can adequately represent them, no. What were you asking again earlier? I'm sorry.
What would
How to
the
figure
alternative
them,
be?
no, in
Yes.
the highly urbanized centers. In the highly urbanized centers, Ria, you already have I suppose, no, the priority in the deployment of law enforcement groups, no, like the police, no, are already there. And of course, the cities can also identify, no, people that can actually perform functions, no, very close to the people. In other words, you need not conduct elections at the barangay level in the highly urbanized centers. Kasi alam mo, ganun din eh. In fact, if you are going to ask me, there's even this I don't know whether it's simply by policy or legislation that our assumption is barangay is non-partisan. Eh, alam naman natin na hindi non-partisan yan. Ang nangyayari kasi, of course, whoever is the incumbent local chief executive, mayor for that matter, will always have to support, no, his own lieutenants in the barangay, because that will impact significantly on his performance as a mayor. So why not just allow the mayor, no, to deputize or identify people who he really can rely to? Kasi in the first place, hindi naman if they're going to say na hindi kasi dapat may sariling mandato ang barangay. Of course, I'm sure everyone would understand that when it comes to the barangay, accountability is a lot more difficult really, no, to determine.
Right. Now, on the side of the voters, how crucial is it for them to choose their leaders in the barangay and SK level? How much would it impact their daily lives?
That's why I was emphasizing, that at the end of the day, barangay elections is a prelude to the coming elections again for mayor, the midterm elections. Kung gagawin nating synchronize talaga from the barangay level up to the presidential level when we do elections, no, laging nakahiwala yung barangay elections. In fact, the reason why we're only electing barangay officials now after 5 years is because it has always been postponed. So magkakaroon lang ng magandang eleksyon talaga na kumbaga talagang what do you call this? We can really focus on particular positions because there will be less capacity on the part of the mayor to really exert effort to influence the outcome of the elections. Gawin na nating synchronize. Now, having said that, if you're a voter and you really want your barangay to reflect the true will of the people, make sure that you are going to vote not only for those people you know personally, but you know them personally to be capable, no? That regardless whether he or she is allied with the mayor or not, that he will be able to perform his job. Because at the end of the day, the role of the barangay is to be always there so that when there's a need, no, for the keeping of peace and law and order, there's always the barangay to count on.
All right. Now, going back to the Sangguniang Kabataan, as an entity, it's often touted as a training ground for future leaders. Is that the case, or is it just a breeding ground for future traditional politicians?
Ria, regardless whether you're talking of SK or barangay or the municipality, no, until such time that we change the system of government, I would not really think of it as a training ground for leadership. Now, when I was still young, I also ran for Sangguniang Kabataan, and I saw firsthand, no, how it is there. When it comes to politics, horse trading will always be part of the whole process, part of the whole what they call this involvement in politics. But what makes it worse really is that here in our country, everything depends on the personality. It doesn't really matter whether you belong to a particular political party or not, because our political parties are even run by personalities themselves. And again, we attempted to reform that, no, with the introduction of the party list. But again, we see also what's happening as far as the party list setup is concerned, because it's supposedly was this based from the proportional system of representation in other countries, but precisely because we do not understand, kasi nga yung konteksto natin, wala namang political parties. Even if you review your election code, there is a mention of political parties there only for purposes of being part of one's running. It doesn't provide specific rules for political parties that will make them really function as political parties, unlike in other countries. So pag hindi mo binago yung sistema at personal palagi yan, it will still be the same. Yeah, malaking bagay yun. May lang, Ria. When you say personality-based politics, when you run for office, you spend for your own. No, you don't have political parties that will prepare you and also support you for the campaign. And so when you're already in power, your tendency is to recover whatever you spent, no, running for office. So it becomes a vicious circle. So until such time we change the system of government, ganito pa din.
All right, sir. Thank you for joining us here on The Source. We appreciate your insights. That was political analyst Ed Tayao. We will be taking a short break now. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned.